Chris Sola knows about local. He is the senior minister and chairperson of the Dream Centre Church in Manukau and the Dream Centre Trust in West Auckland. And he joins me now.
My father is Samoan and my mother is Maori, and I grew up in South Auckland in the 60s and in the 70s. And my parents divorced when I was 14 years old because my mother, who was Maori, could not understand why my father, who was Samoan, would take all of our money and give it to the church. This is about the economy for children. We didn't have one. My children struggled to relate to my experiences because I've made it a lifetime agenda to make sure that they don't have to go through what I went through. The Dream Centre is a Baptist church that has broken, I guess, outside of the typical church walls to work with people in society, and for me in South Auckland that are experiencing the same things that I experienced. I'm trying to finish a book, it's called The Wrong Side of the Counter. I made this observation in South Auckland, that in communities that were predominantly Maori and Pacific, most of the businesses were owned by non-Polynesians. So I came to the conclusion that our people were standing on the wrong side of the counter. That on Phil Riley's side, that's where all the power is. People who receive your money, it's an empowering thing to take people's money from them. I've never enjoyed, I don't know about you, but I've never been to a shop and handed my money over with a big smile or something. But it's disempowering. And so I came to the conclusion that we were standing on the wrong side of the counter, which meant that my Maori and Samoan people were predominantly consumers, which meant that we have a consumer mentality, and a consumer mentality that has kept us poor or on a low socio-economic status. And so I've made it my agenda, and we've made it our agenda as the Dream Centre, to try and discover what are the many factors that have kept our people on the other side of the counter. And there are many. One of them is taken from perhaps a key strategy that we've looked at, and because I'm a pastor, there are two scriptures I want to read to you. This is not me trying to preach a sermon to you, but Proverbs 22:6 says, "Train a child in the way he should go. When he is old, he will not depart from it." It's common sense. The child will one day become an adult. So whatever you teach them now, they will become later. And so we've learned in our journey to prioritize children in terms of our investments in many ways within our own organisation, because one day they're going to become adult men and adult women who need to be responsible not only to themselves and to their families, but to the wider community. And the second scripture is from Romans 12 verse 2, and this has been a big one for us, is that be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. I've often asked myself, what is it that has kept my people, if I can use that phrase, or our communities where we are? We're now down into the fourth generation, and we're still dependent on government funding, and we're still living in state houses, and we're still struggling from the days when our parents arrived here in New Zealand. And I've come to the conclusion, because I work with grassroots society in South Auckland, that to me that it's actually a mindset. Because our thinking determines our behaviours, And our behaviours determine our lifestyles, which in effect affect our economies. And so I came to the conclusion, and we came to the conclusion, that if you want to change a community and you want to influence a person's economy, well, simple. You've got to shift their paradigms. You've got to change the way they think. You drive through South Auckland, there's something that you'll see that you won't see in other better off communities. Next to every dairy, there's a takeaway, there's a fast food outlet, and next to the fast food outlet, there's probably a liquor store. But they just seem to be in our communities. There's a consumer demand. And so we've taken on board for ourselves as a young organisation, the Dream Centre. We rebranded 2 years to the Dream Centre when we took our church from a $2,000 a week budget to a $30,000 a week budget overnight, and we purchased the Manukau Village 8 Movies complex right in the heart of South Auckland. And we've embarked on a journey to launch a community transformation project we've targeted, I won't tell you what the community is at the moment, a certain community where we actually want to try and shift the way people think. And me being a minister working in South Auckland, one of my greatest challenges at grassroots society is really trying to change the way people think. And so if you gave two people $1,000, one would go away and invest it, and the other one would go away and buy a 60-inch TV and put it next to the 40-inch TV. But it's the way people think. Someone came to me and said, I'm going to buy a nice, big, expensive BMW. And I said, well, you better find the house to park it in, because you're going to look silly driving that thing up the road into that house that you're living in, where you're living. And for some reason, we seem to prioritise the vehicle over a home. And so we're trying to shift the way people think. And so for us, the community transformation is about changing people's views of how they can support themselves. I'm a very strong advocate of self-sustainability. I believe, and it's our conviction at the Dream Centre, that every individual and every organisation should become self-sustainable. I want my children to be self-sustainable. I made a decision many years ago that I was not going to rely on other people to take care of me, and I was not going to rely on the government to finance me and my family. I think one of the most counterproductive effects of any economy is dependency. It is counterproductive on a national scale, and it is counterproductive at a grassroots scale, and I believe that it encourages both poverty and a poverty mindset that has led to our people being consumers, primarily consumers. And so I speak and say this everywhere. I believe that every organisation should become self-sustainable, because I think it was last week we had an earthquake here in Wellington. If we get another one just like Christchurch, there'll be no more money available for any social service providers, which probably means there probably won't be any more social services available to the wider community. And so we are looking at ways, and we felt that it was a bit hypocritical for us to try and get our people off the benefit and get them into employment, and yet we as an organisation were totally dependent on somebody else to fund our organisation. And so we wanted to work out ways of how we could fund ourselves and do our own businesses. And so we're using that model to be able to now go into the community and take this community transformation where we can help shift a lot of our people's thinkings so that our people can be a lot more economically sustainable in the future. There are many things I can talk about on that, but I want to say just a couple of things before I close. Our facilitator tonight, interestingly, shared from Glenn Owen's book and about a project that's going to start in Otara. Well, those stats that he writes about are predominant in a community that I actually work in. And he's chosen that community because of the economy, not just in terms of money in the hand, but in terms of also the way people think. And we've made it our goal to be able to shift the goalposts on that. I also feel that the businesses and government are actually not the answer to the shifting. The answer lies within the critical mass of people who live at a grassroots society, that if we can work with them and if we can help them to shift the way they think and how they spend their money, then I believe that we can have a much more better future. My wife and I, it's been our goal, we have 3 children, a son and 2 daughters, that on the wedding day of all 3 of our children, we would be able to give them all their own homes. That's been a dream of ours, and we believe we're very close to realising that dream. I've said to my 3 children, I said, son, if you become very wealthy and your sister doesn't, I want you to take all of your resources and I want you to share it with your sisters. And I say that to my sister, the daughters. If you get wealthy and your sister and your brother isn't, then I want you to take what you have and I want you to share it amongst yourselves. This is what we've been modelling to you. This is what we've been teaching to you. Whatever we're doing to you as your parents, we want you to make sure that you equally do that to your own children. Live for each other. That's the Maori way. That's the Polynesian way. We live together as a community. And that's actually also a biblical example of how we take care of each other's economy. South Auckland, to me, someone said today, it was a vibrant community. It's actually my home. My mother was totally justified in walking away from her marriage. She struggled to be able to pay for the bills and to feed her 9 children. Economy for children, absolutely crucial. Not only for the family, not only for the children, but for the well-being of our country. Thank you.